It's the thing that nearly everyone working today dreams about, retirement. Today I'm sharing tips for planning your retirement budget, the extra costs you need to avoid, plus the story of a woman who after 100 years still shows up to work every week. It's all coming up next. Welcome to Your Money. I'm your host, Gordon Severson. After years of budgeting, saving, and, well, working, it's finally time to retire. It's a big lifestyle change, and I wanted to make sure you've got all the information you need. You want the transition to retirement to be as smooth as possible. So first and foremost, you need to decide what your retirement is going to look like. Will you still work part-time? Do you plan to travel? How will you cover an emergency expense, like a big repair for your car or your home? Experts say, in general, you should save enough money to have 70 to 90% of your current income. You can find a free calculator online like this one from AARP. I'll have more tips later in the show, but first I want to make sure to talk about the importance of prioritizing your financial goals as you get closer to retirement. A new study shows that almost half of parents are helping their adult kids pay the bills, to the tune of around $1,400. And that's more than twice what those parents are contributing to their own retirement. But first, let me define adult kids. I mean 18-year-olds, people who are out of high school and college-aged, all the way through 59-year-olds who are still getting help from their parents. The study from Savings.com found the most common costs are groceries, rent, and cell phone bills. This story from Indianapolis has more details about why it's important to focus on your own finances first, instead of your adult kids.
Make sure you are not jeopardizing your retirement or buried in high-interest debt like a credit card. If you learn that you cannot afford to help them out, look at other assistance. Help them with meals, a job search, maybe even let them live at home for a period of time. And if you can afford to help out, set boundaries.
There's an end date that you say to them, okay, I can help you for the next 2 months or up until a specific date. But it's not just endless, because that can go on and cause financial stress. And also, the ultimate goal here is to help your adult children become financially independent.
This expert also said that if you spend all of your money on your kids instead of saving for retirement, there is no retirement loan out there. So don't get stuck. You don't want to have to work forever. The baby boomer generation is getting ready to retire, if they haven't already. But what about the people who are just starting out on their retirement savings journey? According to Investment Company Institute, Gen Z households have 3 times as much in their retirement accounts as Gen Xers did at their age. It's better to start those good savings habits young, but there is really no bad time to start saving. Life can come at you fast, so it's important to start saving for those goals that are 5, 10, and 15 years down the road, and a good financial advisor can help you set a plan before those years sneak up on you.
To a 40-year-old that has 3 kids or whatever, they're going to be way different. That 20-year-old at that point, a big priority may be debt. They're just graduating, 20, 21, 22 years old. They may be wanting to pay down student loans, where that 40 or 50-year-old is, they've got kids nearing college within 5 or 10 years.
It can be tough to save when you're younger, but that money will make a huge difference when you're older. So when's the best time to put money away?
One of my colleagues, he said, well, there's 2 great times to invest. One of those was a couple years ago when we went through the downhill, I think it's 2020. The other great time to invest is today.
You work hard at your job, so make sure you're taking advantage of any other benefits your job offers. If your employer offers something like a 401k match, make sure you enroll. We have all heard from so many people in our lives, you gotta save for retirement, you gotta set up a retirement plan. But beyond that, a lot of people are wondering, how much do I save? Where do I get started? And to help us with some of those questions, we've got Grant Meyer from GTS Financial. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So when someone, maybe let's say they're 22, 21, getting out of college or their first job, they're always told, you got to start a retirement account. Yeah. But I think a lot of people just kind of do it and get started and don't think anything much of it. What are some things that people should be thinking about when they start saving retirement, and how often should they be checking back in to see if it's performing the way it should be?
Well, the first thing is start. They need to actually start saving. And it's difficult when we're right out of college and we get our first paycheck to be thinking about ourselves 40 years in the future when we actually need the money. So thinking about saving, especially when we're younger, is super important, because then we get this magic of compound earnings where we get a lot of growth later on in our lives. There's so many studies that show saving early in most cases beats out trying to save more later and making up for it. So starting early, fantastic thing to do. Next thing, we want to take advantage of any employer matches in a retirement plan. That's a no-brainer place to go. If your company matches up to 3%, you want to at least start there. From there, it gets a little bit more nuanced. Generally, a neat thing to consider if we're talking about younger savers is a Roth IRA. So we may want to start into a 401k plan, get that 3% to get that match, whatever happens to be at work. Then look at maxing out a Roth IRA. That would be a fabulous goal. I would consider company match, max out a Roth, and then maybe back into the 401k. Our big picture that we want to focus on is saving about 15 to 20%. Now, we can be more aggressive if we want to retire sooner. Certainly, there's this thing called FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, where we get extremely high savings rates. But for most people, I'd say that's a little bit maybe unrealistic or unachievable. Set that at 15% as a good rule of thumb, and making sure we check at least maybe once a year, bare minimum, that our investments are properly allocated for our goals. Sometimes there are surprises in 401ks. We may get company matches in stock we may not want. Contributions might accidentally have been going into cash versus being invested into the market. So doing an investment checkup maybe in the new year is always a good New Year's resolution. Make a net worth statement, check your savings rate, and check the balance of your account, and check the investments. That's a good kind of place to go.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, I know I felt this way too when I first started out working, was that you get the company match and you're just like, okay, that's good. And you don't really stop to think like, oh, is that enough? Like, is that the amount? Like, you just kind of focus on the match and you think that's like how much you need to retire. But then, like you said,
in most cases,
it's not the case.
That's the bare bones.
But what's good news is that if you're trying to hit that goal of, what was it, 15 to 20?
15 to 20%, yep.
You can count that employer match as part of it. If they're matching you 3%, you can add that to because that's money towards your retirement.
There's some debate on that, a little controversy. So you could be more conservative and you could say excluding that. What that will do is it will force you to save a little bit more, keeps the lifestyle creep down low, so that way as you get those raises and bonuses, you don't live on as much, which puts you in a better position, or you can count it. The reality is maybe you have student loan payments starting back up. Right, you want to save for a house, maybe if you're just early in your career. We have weddings potentially, or kids maybe if we're a little bit into our career. There's lots of things pulling on our salary that we need to pay for. So being realistic, we can count that in. That gives us a little bit more cash flow so we can make ends meet.
I like what you said earlier about the Roth IRA, because I've been reading and seeing a lot of people have been going with more of the strategy where, like you said, they'll get the company match in the 401k and then they'll put the next dollars into Roth, because with the Roth IRA, you're paying the taxes now and then it grows tax-free at your entire career and your entire life as long as you have it. And the advantages, I'm sure, is that when you're starting out, you're making you're the least amount of money in theory of your career. So you're paying less in taxes, you're in a lower tax bracket, and also you're younger, so that money has more time to grow tax-free. That's something that a lot of younger people might want to consider getting into early on in their career.
Yeah, the analysis of, do we do the traditional 401k, traditional IRA, or do we do a Roth 401k or Roth IRA? It really comes down to this question. Is my tax rate today going to be higher or lower than it will be in the future? And as you mentioned, with most people earlier in their career, generally they should make more as their career advances. They get more experience, get promotions and everything. So probably starting off, their tax brackets are lower. Additionally, our government, we're in record debt right now, and probably one of the ways we're going to get out of that potentially is increased taxes. So tax rates, by most people's guess, are probably going to be going up in the future. So it's a pretty safe assumption. If you're young today, Roth is a pretty interesting vehicle for you to consider. As you get more advanced in your career and your income starts to go up, potentially your pay is over 6 figures, then there may be a case for actually using just regular 401ks and potentially considering some other strategies to get money into Roth IRAs. There's this thing called a backdoor Roth IRA, which is a neat strategy for high income earners to get tax-free dollars put in towards retirement. So exactly think about where our rate is today. Nobody knows, but trying to guess where it will be in the future can help guide you in that decision.
I'm also wondering about people who own their own business or they're independent contractor and don't have access to a company 401k. What are some good options for them?
Great question. So often I see so many self-employed people or people in the gig economy, right? We have a couple, maybe we're doing Uber Eats and then maybe we're doing some Amazon deliveries and all of our income's coming in as 1099 as self-employed income. We don't have a 401k or company match to take advantage of. However, the IRS has carved out a unique set of retirement plans for people who are self-employed. I think depending upon your income, Roth IRA is a great place to start. But then depending upon how much we're earning, if we're self-employed, maybe we're a self-employed business owner, we have some staff members. There are things like SEP IRAs, solo 401ks built for individuals. You can get these things called simple IRAs, which are very easy to implement retirement plans for smaller companies. So there are options out there if you're a business owner or you're self-employed that allow you to save, get some tax breaks, and potentially kind of kickstart your future without a 401k plan in place.
And I know a lot of people who are these small business owners will often reinvest a lot of their money into their company, but it's also a good idea to be thinking about those other retirement accounts as well, because a company is one asset. You want to make sure you have investments in the market, bonds, other things, so you're a little more diversified, right?
A famous phrase, don't put all of our eggs in one basket. So it's great to bet on yourself, and if you have your own company, investing back in and hiring people, expanding your products is a wonderful use. But you're right. If something happens to your company, the economy shifts for whatever reason, something unexpected happens, we want to be prepared and diversify where our assets are allocated, which means utilizing retirement plans. And the neat thing is, if you're a small business owner, usually some of these costs of setting up these plans and your contributions into them can give you tax write-offs. So we can reduce your income, save taxes, put money into retirement, diversify your income. They're really powerful if utilized right.
For sure. And I think a really good topic to talk about with this conversation about retirement is a lot of people are focused on the saving. They're in saving mode. But what is it like when you finally get to spend this money and you transition into living off this retirement? I think a lot of people that are younger don't think about that. Is what is your plan actually like? How do you use this retirement money to retire? If we could touch on that.
Yeah, it's a complicated topic, but I'm going to break it down kind of into two components. First, let's talk about your investments and how those work, and then we'll talk about Social Security, Medicare, some important ages around those. So as a rough rule of thumb, a lot of studies have been done around how much can we take out of retirement, and they've calculated that rule of thumb is around 4%. So everybody's situation is different, right? It depends on what lifestyle you want, what your health is, if you're married, what that spouse's work situation is like. There's lots of complicating factors here, but generally if we have, say, $500,000 saved for retirement, we take that lump sum of money, multiply by 4%. In a year, we can withdraw $20,000. And we can set that up on a monthly basis to be deposited right into our checking accounts, and that can provide the starting income for our retirement. The other complicated factor, too, is where do we take that money? Because we may have some in a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, a brokerage account. And what we want to be thinking about there is we want to look at our tax situation. When we pull money from IRAs and 401ks, it's taxable income. It's tax-free from Roths, and then each year we pay tax on brokerage accounts. And so coordinating all of that is a component of that. Once we have our 4% rule figure out on our portfolio, then the other thing we have to think about, which is a big source of income for many people, is Social Security and retirement. There are generally three big milestones with Social Security. 62, your full retirement age, which for many people might be around 67. and then 70. These 3 dates are important. Social Security in a big nutshell, earliest you can collect is 62. If you are working, we need to be careful that we don't earn too much money or they withhold that. It's about $22,000 a year. Once you hit your full retirement age, 67, you can work as much as you want. And I do think work in a retirement is good. Have a part-time job, get out there, have a purpose, interact with people, contribute back to the community and society is always wonderful. If we're 67 or older, we don't have to worry about how much money we make if we're collecting Social Security. And then there's 70, which is the last age you can collect Social Security. And that would give you the most benefit over your lifetime. Generally, if you live to about age 81, can make sense to delay Social Security to 70. So we take those two components, 4% from our portfolio and Social Security, we combine those together, and that produces our income. And the last quick side note is at 65, we have Medicare, so we need to be thinking about health insurance as we head into retirement too.
Well, thanks so much for giving us a little preview and a basic introduction to retirement planning, Grant.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So how much do you need to save to be on track for retirement? Is there a risk you'll outlive your money once you stop working? Even if you're young, it's something to think about. And this story from Texas has more details.
The more of your income you save, the sooner you will grow your wealth and set yourself up for retirement. But what should that look like? Certified financial planner Neil Vanoy explains.
Common rule of thumb has been to invest 10% of your pre-tax earnings. But if you want to improve your chances for a secure retirement or maybe becoming financially independent early in life, I always suggest 15%, if not more. Be sure to include any match that you get from your employer in that percentage you're saving. For example, if you want to save 10% and you get a 4% match from your employer, you would only need to forego 6% from your paycheck to get to that 10% goal.
Unless you are making a very comfortable income, Neil says you should feel what you are saving.
I tell clients that if they're comfortable with the amount of money they're putting in their 401k and other investment accounts, they might not be saving enough. If you're not dedicating as much as you should to reach your financial goals, try increasing the percentage you save by a small percentage each month. For a lot of people, that's easier than jumping up to that higher percentage all at once.
And then there's the age-old question. Do you pay taxes now or in the future by investing in a Roth IRA or a traditional?
In general, investors that expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement are better off contributing to a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. Those aren't tax deductible now, but then withdrawals will be tax-free in retirement. If you are in that higher tax bracket, that would help you out. It's a good idea to build up a mix of different account types. You want to have pre-tax money that you get to deduct now, and you want to have tax-free money from Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks, along with just a regular investment account that gets favorable lower capital gains rates. Having a mix of different account types that are taxed differently will help you respond to no matter what Congress throws our way in the future.
And then there's this. Where do you make your investments and the risks that you take in either stocks or bonds? And it's going to depend on your age and your financial risk-taking status.
The correct mix of asset classes will depend on things like your age, your risk tolerance, your time horizon for your goals. Viewers can go to websites like Morningstar.com, SmartAsset.com, and Bankrate.com to find asset allocation calculators that help them come up with the right mix of investments for them.
In the video, the expert was talking about asset mix, and I just wanted to remind you that asset allocation refers to how you invest your portfolio across various kinds of investments, like stocks and bonds. It is very important to have a good mix of investments. Some are more risky than others. Another way to save for retirement is a pension plan. Sometimes it's called a defined benefit pension or a defined benefit plan. It's less common in the private sector than it used to be. More jobs have a 401k, but the two plans aren't all that different. Both were created to help you save for retirement. Under a 401k or 403b account, the employee decides how much money to contribute from each paycheck, they pick the investments, and they manage the account in retirement, with a financial advisor if you choose to hire one. With a pension plan, there's a rate you have to pay. Workers often need to spend 5 to 7 years on the job before they're vested in those benefits, but with a pension, you're typically guaranteed a set payment for life. Normally, the employer bears the risk of investment with these plans, so if the market drops, or if you live to be 120 years old, your employer is still on the hook to cover the cost of the plan. Welcome back. Social Security is something that a lot of folks rely on when it's time to stop working. In January of 2024, the average monthly payment for seniors receiving Social Security benefits was around $1,900. You may have seen a viral video trending online claiming that extra money is on the way. Our Verify team dug into the details. Check it out.
Now, an additional $2,000 check is on the way for Social Security recipients.
A viral YouTube video and several articles claim Social Security recipients will get a fourth federal stimulus check this year. Several Verify viewers reached out to ask if this is really going to happen. So, let's verify. Our sources are the Internal Revenue Service, the U.S. Department of Treasury, and AARP. During the pandemic, Congress passed 3 laws to send stimulus checks to millions of Americans. While this included Social Security recipients, there wasn't a program specifically for them. The last payment went out in 2021, and Congress would have to pass a law approving a fourth stimulus check, which the IRS and Treasury Department confirm hasn't happened. So, no, Social Security recipients are not getting a fourth stimulus check. No one is. AARP says articles claiming another stimulus check is on the way are often AI-generated hoaxes that are created to generate clicks and advertising revenue for the publishing site. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Today I've been talking a lot about retirement, but if you have a job you really enjoy, you don't have to retire. I want to introduce you to a 104-year-old woman from Maine who shows that age is just a number when it comes to lending a helping hand.
At the Old Timers shop in Sanford, you'll find 2 things. A variety of handcrafted items,
baby things, jewelry, wooden toys.
And the volunteers who keep the shop running.
A couple of our ladies like to come in just because it gives them a change in their routine. Their spouse is home all the time, so they want to get out for the day. Socialize.
You know. It's a family thing. It's wonderful. I love it. I wouldn't miss it. And when I do miss a Wednesday, oh, it's boring at home.
It's a special place with a special mission. Each item here was handmade by a senior in York County. One of those senior makers is Barbara Bean.
2, 4, 6, 8. 10.
Barbara says she spends about 5 or 6 hours a day knitting or crocheting. Right now, she's working on a baby blanket. And let's just say, I've got a lot to learn. She's made everything from mittens to baby sweaters to her own clothes.
I knit this sweater. I got another sweater the same color. And I got a blue sweater. When you knit, you're accomplishing something. And that's always good.
Barbara, who turned 104 in February, is also one of the shop's volunteers. She's been helping out around the store since the early 2000s.
Now I come in the first Friday of every month.
What's kept you here so long?
I have no idea.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, I must enjoy it or else I wouldn't be doing it.
It's that can-do mindset that has served Barbara well throughout her life.
Well, it starts with attitude. And my whole lifetime, since I was a little girl, I've always tried to treat people the way I wanted them to treat me. I've always done that. And it's always worked out, and I have no complaints.
Her fellow volunteers say her quick wit and charm is infectious.
We all want to be like Barbara when we grow up. We're always saying that. She's just totally amazing.
And she's taught me different stitches and stuff like that, because I started knitting not that long ago, and certain times I'd say, oh, I'm going to go see Barbara. And I'd ask her, and she would tell me, show me like she showed you.
Sharing her gifts and volunteering her time with friends who have become more like family. And she has no plans of slowing down.
Really proud to be 104. I never thought I'd make it. Now I'm shooting for 110. We'll see if that happens.
Barbara got connected with the Old Timers shop through a local nonprofit. If you're looking to volunteer in your community, I'm sure you can find a similar program with a quick online search. Hopefully planning for retirement has been on your radar for years and you've got a good nest egg set aside. But if you don't, it's never too late to start saving. Even if you don't start saving until age 35, you still have a good 30 years to put away money. And Roth IRAs, municipal bonds, annuities, and real estate can be tapped for funds. So if you're feeling stuck, don't give up. Well, that's all for today's show. I'm your host, Gordon Severson, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely. I'll see you next time.